Comrades, welcome to our usual Sundays reading group or reading club, where we read this book called Defeating Dictators by Dr. George Aiti. So today we will be looking at institutional checks against despotism, and we, as usual, will do the reading and share our thinking after our reading. So we will go ahead from where we are in the institutional checkups. Once we finish reading the subtitle like religious and supernatural sanctions, we will take 3 minutes per person to share their thinking. Then we'll go ahead with another reading until where the time catches up. So that's what we target to do today. So once again, feel most welcome. Brother Sawindok or Sister Chisomo, who amongst you can read for us this aspect of institutional checks and the religious or supernatural sanctions? Sawindok or Sister Chisomo?
Sister Chisomo, you can read.
You read this time. I'll read after you. Is that okay? Is that okay?
You don't want to read?
I'll read after you.
Okay. Institutional checks against despotism. Are we there?
Yes, that's where we are.
Yes, yes.
Most indigenous societies have institutionalized a whole battery of checks against tyranny and abuse of power by office holders.
Mm-hmm.
Religious. Can I proceed?
Yes, yes.
Religious or supernatural sanctions. The office of chieftaincy is sacred, for it is the repository of ancestral spirits. These spirits watch the living constantly and reward good rulers, but punish wrongdoing with epidemics, calamity, and other catastrophes on the earth, and ostracism of the souls after death. Let me read again. These spirits watch the living constantly and reward good rulers, but punish wrongdoing with epidemics, calamity, and other catastrophes on the earth, and ostracism of the souls after death. An occupant who defiles the office incurs the wrath of the ancestors. The Temne of Sierra Leone took their spiritual injunctions a step further. The corpse of a bed chief was dragged along the ground and mocked by those who hated him. By defiling the corpse, the Temne believed they would prevent his soul from joining the spirits of the ancestors. Most often, that indignity of such a funeral ceremony acted as a check on bed chiefs.
We'll stop there. Then we will share our thinking on this, and then we'll go to private and public admonition later, and also share our thinking on that. Now, this is a very brief paragraph. Let me read it again as we try to share what we think about it. They say that the indigenous societies have institutionalized a whole battery of checks against tyranny and abuse of power by office holders. Now, one of that battery is the religious and supernatural sanctions. And they said the office of the chieftaincy is sacred, for it is the repository of ancestral spirits. These spirits watch the living constantly and reward good rulers, but punish wrongdoing with the epidemics, calamities, and other catastrophes on the earth, and ostracism of the souls after death. An occupant who defiles the office incurs the wrath of the ancestors. The Tene of Sierra Leone took their spiritual injunction a step further. The corpse of a bad chief was dragged along the ground and mocked by those who hated him. By defiling the corpse, the Tene believed they would prevent his soul from joining the spirits of the ancestors. Most often, that indignity of such a funeral ceremony acted as a check on bad chiefs. So if you're bad, you don't want to be bad again because your corpse might be dragged in the streets. So yes, let's hear what you think about that. Sister Chisomo?
Reminds me of the Libya, Gaddafi, the way he died. So, and also the first bit here that says most indigenous societies have institutionalized a whole battery of checks against tyranny and abuse of power. Is that right, given what's happening to us today with the leaders, or are we just, well, including chiefs and whoever's?
No, maybe because, Sister Chisomo, maybe because we are not following our traditional systems.
It's because of what?
Maybe because we are not following our indigenous systems. In the current so-called democratic systems, of course, they are saying if a president or a leader is wrong, you either impeach them or take them to court. That's what they say. But the problem is that the courts are also dominated by them.
Mm.
And even the citizens are bribed by the leaders. So the citizens are also bribed by the leaders. So they won't even think of removing the leader or impeaching the leader.
And they reward good rulers and punish wrongdoing. I don't know, maybe it used to happen then. I'm sure it used to, but not today.
But Sister Chisomo, epidemics, calamities, and other catastrophes on the earth today, maybe drought or anything else, do we really read them in spiritual aspect that it might be a punishment to the bad ruler who is ruling the country? Maybe bad harvest in a country, maybe we don't connect it to that. We think maybe we want to explain it scientifically. So there was no enough rain, that's why there was no food. But maybe they are punishment of the dictators, just that we can't read it in that way.
That's what they say in my country, that God is punishing Malawi because of all these, what the leaders are doing and what people are doing to each other.
But God don't punish the people, God punish the leader.
I don't know, because I was actually just a few minutes ago, I was messaging somebody over the same thing. Somebody, you see, the way the government came into power this term was a bit dubious for me at the time. And people disputed, everything was fine. And now they turned around to say it was wrong, it was this, it was that. Oh, we are sorry, and they're apologizing to the leader before. Because if you remember, Malawi did second elections. So now they're apologizing to the leader before, saying, we did you wrong, the whole thing was wrong, blah, blah, blah. And then, so it's all these people who, when things are happening, they know it's wrong. They agree to it, to the fact that they just want the outcome. Get rid of the other guy. Just get rid of the other guy. We'll sort out the rest after. But when he's after, once he's gone, he's gone. And then you have these people, you don't know who they are, you don't know what they're doing, you don't know what they're up to. And then they get in and then they start, oh, they lied to us. From day one, they lied. And I'm thinking, what did they lie about? You were agreeing all along. What has changed? So from that day onwards, it's been nothing but cursing these people in power. And it goes worse and worse and worse to what we are today. So people are like, oh, maybe things are happening like this because.
But let us look at how the indigenous society try to punish a dictator. Do you think it's harsh enough to stop people from being dictators?
But that's the thing. That's what we were asking yesterday. It was only yesterday we were asking that same question in the CSG group. What do we do about these people? Bottom up. Because we don't seem to find a way. They're just getting away with a lot.
Okay, let's think what Sawilok is thinking. Sawilok.
Yes, we should just
Sorry, I forgot about my timing. It's 3 minutes.
Yeah, we should just depose the leaders.
Okay.
You know, because of their bad ruling, now the whole nation is befallen by epidemics and calamities and catastrophes. I don't want to say this, but why do the ancestors also allow us, the innocent people, to suffer because of the bad ruling of the of the chiefs? Why don't the ancestors just remove the chiefs at once, put them to rest forever? If they see we do not have the power to take them away, they can see both sides, the ancestors. Maybe we have not invoked the spirits enough for them to see that, hey, we tried, but the leaders are so entrenched, they are so powerful, they have got all the state resources, and we can't take them off. But maybe to comment a little, to comment a little bit on Gaddafi. Gaddafi was is another case. The West portrayed him to be bad, so his people have taken that he's a bad person, and he died that undignified death. I don't even know where he's buried. Where was he buried? I don't even know. The same with Jonas. The same with Jonas Savimbi. He was an ally of the West all the time, and then they dumped him, and then they betrayed him, and then his body was paraded all over Huambo. After they misused him, after they used him, after they dumped him. I cannot ascribe our spirits to have orchestrated that. Not in both cases. But these sanctions,
is it
as it was... Go
ahead, you have 1 minute.
Oh, sorry.
Just 1 minute more.
Okay. Oh, 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. To the members who have joined us now, we are actually doing our reading as usual, and we share our thinking after our reading. Here we are discussing about traditional systems or traditional means on how the Africans dealt with the dictators, how we were able to deal with the dictators. And one of the first way is the religious and supernatural ways. And this is what we are reading here. After this, then we'll go to the next aspect, which is the public and private administration. So that in the traditional ways, either the gods will punish a bad leader, by causing calamities. Or in another angle is that the people themselves at the death, like these people of Sierra Leone, could drag on the ground the body and mock the body or the corpse. They will do that so that they try to ensure that that dictator do not join the ancestors, so that it doesn't become a bad ancestor. How do you think about this in this text? This is what you're asking me. Please share with us your thinking in regards to this. I'm going to go to Brother Sokiri. Please feel free to share with us your thinking in 3 minutes, if you can.
Brother Bijin. Brother Bijin?
Yes.
Did you rob me of my 1 minute?
Okay, finish your 1 minute.
Thank you.
Okay.
You see, these sanctions, like the religious or supernatural sanctions, in a traditional setup, I think they were good caveats or good sanctions. And the spirits would reward good leaders. That's when we were really spiritual. And they would punish wrongdoers with epidemics and calamities because we believed in that. But now our leaders elected so-called democracy. So I don't know how our spirits will work on them. But be that as it may, let us check maybe battery, sacred, ostracism, and defiles in their proper perspective. I don't think I understand them in their perspective. Thank you.
Okay, a battery of checks means there are so many means of checks for the dictators, and one of them is religious. So our whole battery, there were so many of means that we could use for checks. But again, if you ask whether the spirits could reward good leaders, do you think people like Traore or people believe and Pan-African is now a progressive leader? Do you think the ancestors and the spirits are not with him?
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
but
you see, this is one of the projects. I'm the director of Africa Center for Intangible Phenomena Studies. It's a new organization, and this is some of the areas we are trying to study. The point is the role of human responsibility and the spiritual world also, which is a complex kind of a system we cannot even talk about now. But I think with the European worldview also coming to Africa, there's a bit of confusion when it comes to the human responsibility, the spirit side, and how they work together. But from a little bit of studies I have made, I see that the spirit world doesn't interfere in our world until we call them to do so. And this is where I feel like our society, we need to take our own action before we can say that spirit world, do this. And that one also has a channels it has to go through. You have to go through traditional priests. In the Southern Africa here, we say Sangoma or Nyanga. You see, these kind of systems, even the knowledge of them is no longer strong, as we see with the domination of Islam and Christianity. It's not strong. But then we come to the spiritual side where we take Christianity and Islam to everything is left to God. And God is also sitting somewhere. So now we have a problem. And I feel like we need to go back to study. We need to actually come to understanding how these different realms work, and so that how do they play into our society, as much as how do we also rely on them? At what time should we rely on them? Yeah, I think I will end here for somebody to also to come in.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade Bernard.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for your thinking. Let's get to Simon Chibi. Simon?
Yeah, excuse me. My sister in Malawi, I was there recently. I'll come back.
Oh my God, Malawi is like a movie right now. I tell you. Oh Lord.
Okay.
And then just to put in something. And then we had Dr. What is his name? Dr. something from South Africa coming to the country, causing so much controversy between South Africa and Malawi.
Yeah.
And now
yes.
he went, said what he said. And now we have Chiwambo in Malawi again. And it's like, what's going on? So there's so much dispute now, so much noise going on.
This is a good example because you have these two people who were in one party. They separated. Now, one spiritual leader has become a source of controversy for these two people. You see how it is. So where is the God? Where are the angels? Where is the Holy Spirit?
So this morning, somebody released pictures of Zuma, EFF leader, but all of them were with Bushiri. So people are saying, why are people attacking, what's the other one? The second one, when everybody was associating with him. Anyway, never mind.
Let's go ahead to Simon Shili. Simon, are you able to share your thinking in regards to this paragraph?
Yeah.
Or even Sister Tapua?
Okay, I can see that.
Okay, if you are not able, we'll go ahead with the next paragraph. But I think that this aspect of trying to drag the body or the corpse of a dictator is something very good. Because we don't entertain dictators at all. Of course, it's an exercise of people in traditional way trying to exercise their or express their anger. In Kenya here, after our protest of the Gen Zs, I think we went ahead to online activism. So people decided to put the president on the coffin. So the president was in coffin, and the president complained why he's in coffin. He said that he will put us in a real coffin. He was threatening us anyway, but he has put many of us in real coffin. He's not joking. But again, I think it's an expression of the people against a dictator. Recently, the former chairperson of the electoral board died in Kenya here. I think he died like, I know they always kill former election chairs so that they die with the secrets. He died around 2 months ago, a month ago. You know what people did? People were celebrating and mocking the dead until the family, in fact the son, came out and asked the people, the public, to please allow them mourning in peace. People said no. In fact, somebody was saying, where are you going and you're leaving us with a bad president that you are corrupted and to vote him in? Come back. Come back here so that we deal with you, so that we suffer together with the mistake you brought to this country. Some even want XML to ask, put some quotes. They're asking God, I know Chebukati is coming, please don't allow him to go to heaven, just take him to hell. People express their own means, and this are also a way of mocking dictators. So people also be afraid to be dictators. In fact, people are threatening young people to say that if you put me in coffin, I'll deal with you. We'll put you in coffin immediately. Yeah, and we say that's an AI generated coffin. So are you arresting me or are you arresting AI? Another member of parliament, actually, when there was a political meeting somewhere, young people stormed in and they decided to attack the young people. In fact, that member of parliament was seen shouting, beat them. Just recently, his son died in a car accident and the people mocked her terribly. In fact, they said to her, yes, that's a reward for standing and seeing young people being beaten and you are supporting it. Now it's your turn. In that burial, the politician decided to apologize. They said, please, the public, we are also human beings with feelings. Do not be too much on us. Do not be too hard on us. please just criticize us in a better way. So in one way or the other, it's still a current expression of how the public can put the leaders or the dictators at bay, but not probably in the so-called radical way, but in other informal ways. In countries here, I see protesters and activists carrying pig in the street, and they write the members of parliament as MPigs to express their feeling that these members of parliament are pigs. So these are ways in which you try to actually discourage dictators from being dictators. And I think this aspect of religious aspect on also God blessing or ancestors blessing those good leaders, I think it's something also you can see, because sometimes don't understand why the government is not running this running properly. But sometimes also the leadership or government that have the favor, maybe you can say the favor of the ancestors, because things go smoothly, there's harvest in a country, development go on, there's no much debts. But there are other governments that when they come in, it's too much of death, too much of drought, too much of everything else. And some will say it's science. Maybe it's not science. Maybe it's supernatural, or maybe it's ancestors speaking. So this is what I think here. But as you have heard, this is the first way of putting dictators at bay. Let's see the next way of putting dictators at bay in the traditional setup, which is the private and public admonitions. Who can read for us that? Anybody can read for us this private and public admonition part. We see also how bad leaders are put on check through public and private admonitions.
Can I come in?
Yes, please.
If I may compare to what happened in Europe years back, I mean, we know that Europe became one of the spiritual in terms of their Christian history and the rest. But at the point whereby that divine intervention was, I would say that was passive. You know, we had the French Revolution, the German Revolution, and other places which actually brought the change they wanted. So if we can even look at that also as an example where people tend to be over spiritualize things, and then the part we as a human being has to take and stand firm to demand accountability or take the necessary action, I think we cannot lay that on the spiritual side of existence. If history is true about that, even we can get similar examples also in Asia. But Africa today, I think sometimes I feel like we are into the back centuries than we are forward because of maybe factors of colonization. But the way we are handling, understanding the spiritual realm, I think there's a big problem about that, which many people have become aware now, that there's a big problem. Whether you take it in the traditional way or you take it in the so-called orthodox faiths. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we are going ahead with our reading. This is a reading of a book written by Dr. George Aiti. The title is Defeating Dictators. So let's read this second part or subheading on how dictators were dealt with in traditional society. Then we can also discuss it a bit. So who is willing to read for us this part? Yes, Simon Chibi.
Yes. Someone reading?
Yes. Someone?
No, I don't want to read the part, but I wanted just to say something before we can proceed from the discussion that I've been listening to.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, my own thinking from the African perspective.
Simon, we are losing you. I think we're having network issues. Herman? Herman, your network is terrible.
Taken serious when we want to look at what we call yes, when we want to look at what we call dictators or those who are doing.
Okay, I think Brother Simon is having a network issue. Sister Tapua, Sister Chisom, please read for us the next paragraph. When he comes in, he can be able to share his thinking. Sister Chisom?
Oh, sorry. Private and public admonitions. A bad chief always causes disaffection among the people and brings shame to the royal lineage. Those who choose or appoint him also have the power to recall or dispose him if he fails to perform satisfactorily. Before a despotic ruler is removed from office, however, most indigenous systems give him ample opportunity to reform. He is reminded of the oath he swore upon assumption of office, which might have required him to listen to advice, not abuse his power, not act autocratically, not abuse his people, and not to go after other people's wives, among other things. A reminder of his own oath often serves as an effective deterrent. Do you want to push that up for me?
No, we end it there because the next one is another subheading. So that's the second means. The first means was spiritual and religious. Now the second mean is on the private aspect. And the third mean will be prohibition from office. So in this second means, we are saying that, and it's saying that a bad chief was always causes disaffection among the people and brings shame to the royal lineage. Those who chose or appointed him also have the power to recall or dispose him if he fails to perform satisfactorily. But it's also here said that before a despotic ruler is removed from office, however, most indigenous systems give him ample opportunity to reform. He is reminded of the oath of office he swore upon assumption of office. He might have acquired, which might have required him to listen to advice, not abuse his power, not autocratically, not abuse his people, and not to go after other people's wives, among other things. A reminder of his own oath often serves as an effective deterrent. What do you think about that? Let's go around and see what others think about this. Each person has at least 3 minutes to share their thinking. Brother Bernard, let's start with you. What do you think about this?
In fact, I have talked about this before, that how our system work. If even our politics is going that way, it will be better, because then we have the power to put you there and recall you. But if you look at the situation we face, there seem to be the process of recalling a head of state. Especially, I've seen it in South Africa, where we have problem with Zuma. The recall was very difficult, and even the current president also had a similar thing. So the whole thing is, how do we also learn from our traditions and see how it can help to reform some of the problems we are facing with this, what I should call it, the Westminster system?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's get somebody else. Sister Chisomo, you have 3 minutes.
Oh, I think we've discussed this, Brother Pigeon, that I think you said Kenya has a system of recalling.
Yeah, very expensive, very hard, as Brother Bernard is saying. The recall system is there, but the members of parliament make it very hard so that you don't recall them.
I'm not sure Malawi has, because we have a system that elects a president, and then the president elects a vice president. He elects a vice president, whoever he wants, and people can't do anything about it. And then along the way, they fall out. So when they fall out, they're not working together at all. They're not talking. Vice president no longer reports for work because he feels he's not acknowledged or whatever. So literally he stops working, but he's still being paid. So the whole system waits until the next election for this person to leave his office. So otherwise he can just go wherever, start something else, which is what the case is. It's happened all the time. So the vice president not lives as informal living, but he's now gone and done his own thing because he no longer does any duty within the government. And then he sets his own party. He's still the vice president, sets up his own party. So he's busy working with his party, using our money because he's still being paid. And then when the president died, she actually said, I was on my way to the market and I got a phone call to say you need to come to the office. What's happened? The president has died. You now need to come and take over. This is somebody who has stopped working for a long time. He was now doing his own thing, like I said, running his own party. So he comes back to take over as the new president with the new party. Not even the existing party, the ruling party.
That's
He
interesting.
brings with her the party that she formed while she was out there to become the ruling party overnight. And nobody says, and this is the second time it's happened in Malawi. Vice president goes, sets up his own party, comes back, takes over with his own party. Then the first one argued, oh, they've crossed the floor, they've crossed the floor. For the whole term, it was they've crossed the floor, but the judiciary did nothing about it. Parliament did nothing about it. It went off.
Okay.
So we have all these successive parties that were not elected as such, but they've come in because people have fallen out, and we can't do anything to remove these people. They just carry on and carry on and carry on and carry on.
Okay. Sister Chisomu, it's interesting what you're saying as well, but I think if you bear in mind also what is said in our tradition here, that of course we could give them time. As it's very important that I say that they were given time to reform, but they were also reminded of the oath they took. But again, you realize that, as you are saying, in Kenya it's different. In fact, for the first time we have removed, a deputy president has been removed from office and a new deputy president has been appointed by the parliament. The constitution of Kenya allows the citizens to take a civil action against a president who is sitting and even remove them on a civil basis. So the president can still be actually taken to court and removed from office on a civil basis. Citizens can do that.
We need to see your constitution.
Yeah, through a referendum also, it's possible for people to start a popular referendum and remove everybody else. There's a time the president wanted to start a popular referendum to change the constitution. The court said that the president cannot initiate a referendum. As much as he's a citizen, he cannot initiate a referendum. So the court nullified this referendum after spending a lot of billions in it. The court said he should be liable for the money that was spent in that referendum. Because he as a president, he cannot instigate a constitutional change as a president. The constitutional change is upon the people. The people of the parliament and the people have power to change the constitution, but not a president. So these are some of the measures we are having in place as well. But again, members of parliament have been taken to court several times. Even there's a former governor who is in prison now, serving his jail term. Another sitting member of parliament has been taken to serve some jail term, even when they are sitting. Another thing is that when there was a protest for the young people in Kenya, the citizens decided to take their own responsibility. One, they sent a text to the members of parliament to remind them that you are elected to serve us. Therefore, the financial bill that is coming to increase taxes, please, as my member of parliament, do not pass it. That was a reminder, citizens taking their responsibility. So members of parliament got thousands of text messages from citizens telling them not to vote that way. Now, when they failed to heed to the citizens' plea, they went ahead and voted that finance bill. The citizens and the young generation decided to storm that parliament. And in fact, they thought the members were sitting there having their lunch. The citizens decided to eat their lunch. They brought down the parliament, members of parliament ran away, alter all over. And constitutionally, that meant that if the citizens get to the parliament, then the parliament should be dissolved, because the peace citizens have got to the house and take over back their power. But that did not work out. But it's actually what it means. So the citizens are still exercising their power. And even now, the president goes against the constitution, the citizens are reminding him that, remember, we never gave you the sword to kill people. The sword is to protect the constitution. So these are a few means in my country as well. But let's also hear what other people have, and then we can come back again. So let me hear what other members also have to say in regards to these private and public ways to keep the dictators at bay, which include either reminding them of their oath and the rest. Let me get to the next person here who hasn't shared their thinking. Sawito, what do you think about this? And welcome, Comrade Stephen Firi and Sister Lorraine from, of course, I think Zimbabwe, and General Naki from South Africa. Very most welcome. We are reading the book by Dr. George Aiti called Defeating Dictators. We've been reading it now for almost 2 months, and we are in chapter 3. What we do, we read a brief, we share our thinking about this, we go to the next one. Sawindok, your 3 minutes starts now.
Yeah, to recall is very difficult. Even though the systems are there to recall, they are so difficult. It's almost, they are non-existent. In contemporary history, how many presidents have been recalled? It's Zuma and who? So the system is so hard that it is impossible to happen. Like Ramaphosa, he's carrying the same things that would implicate him in corruption and these things, but they could not remove him. So are we really saying that there are systems to recall them? I don't agree with that one. They are just fictitious systems, just to appear as if the systems are there to recall. And with the military might that they have, you want to recall them, they come at night and start pointing that red light at you, you get scared, everybody gets scared. When are you going to remove them?
That's very interesting.
They unleash the whole army on you. They are trailing you wherever you come, in a supermarket, at a filling station, all over. So you are the one who instigating the nation against the president. Let us see if tomorrow you will see the day of light.
How the dictators are protecting themselves.
Yeah.
Let's get to what other members are saying actually. Now Sister Lorraine is asking, do you need to buy the book, or you can, the chapters of what, sorry? Okay, we can be able to share with you this book. We are actually, it's available on soft copy. I can even post it on the chat so that you can have a copy of it. What we do, we always just read it. We have a Pan-African library anyway from the Consciousness Study Group. So this is one of the books in our library. We are having, so far, I'm the one who is the librarian. So every day in the morning, we subscribe to a certain platforms. I download around 50 books minimum per day, and we share in our WhatsApp, which is a Consciousness Study Group Pan-African Library. And we have also set up a Telegram account. So far, I've been able to share 5,000 books. These are books about Africa, or written by blacks, or yeah, is Afrocentric in any way. So those are the books we do. So this book, Defeating Dictators, was one of the book in our library that we felt we should start a Sunday session to just do the reading of this book, Defeating Dictators, do a review and share our thinking. Once we are done, we'll do another reading. Our main class as Cautious in Study Group is always a Thursday class where we've been reading Kwame Nkrumah's book, but that one is very intense reading. It's a philosophical book. So you only read a paragraph per Thursday. And we have done that for the last 3 years. Every Thursday, for the last 3 years, since 2022, we have been reading only a paragraph of Kwame Nkrumah's book, Conscientism. We share this on our YouTube channel. After we are done with the meeting, we record and upload on YouTube channel, where I have uploaded around 130 videos on the same. Currently, we are getting to chapter 3 of that book. We have chapter 4 and chapter 5 still pending. But you can see how intense that class is. For the last 3 years, we have only read 2 paragraphs, and you've never missed any Thursday. So this Sunday one came in as an open now reading group, which is not too much of a discussion, but an open reading book where we can be reading more of the books we have in our library. This is what we do here. So we started this, and so far we are in this chapter 3. So just for information, I think that is very important to share with members who are joining us for the first time. Brother Stephen Fury, welcome. We are dealing with how we traditionally were able to defeat dictators. I know we have so many of them in Africa today. Can you share your thinking with us, or any general comment you have, comrade?
Okay, I live in South Africa, and I'm a Zimbabwean, so I know what that means. I was listening when you were talking. Sorry, I normally enter the meeting a little bit late. Sometimes I don't get accepted in the meeting because of my time. My timing is still different from the one that you use, so I want to get used to it. Okay, I was listening. I was actually, what was more interesting was the Kenyan system, in which you can recall the president. Okay, the issue of the people. Okay, our constitution tries to tell us that when we vote people, the people that we vote will serve us. They always do that. The only time that we have got a mandate to do something is when we vote, and sometimes we're not even sure whether our votes are going where they're supposed to, or they are already decided upon before we even vote. Especially in Zimbabwe, that has been the experience. But even if when you come to South Africa, where the elections are a little bit credible, there are ways. But if you see, like what you're talking about, Zuma was not recalled by the people. He was recalled by already a powerful faction. There will be factions within ANC. These are strong people who are already up there. They're not the people. They decide, because according to the Constitution of South Africa, you see, the party, you don't vote a person, you vote the party. In Zimbabwe, you actually vote the person. And the person can actually oppose what the party is saying. When he's voted, he'll be the president of the country. But here in South Africa, now you vote the party. So the party can decide anytime whom they want to put, depending on their own elections. Therefore, once you vote a party like ANC, it will have the power to decide whom they want to replace. So the issue of Ramaphosa, even if you go back to Mbeki, it was not the people who were doing that. It was the party that decided on its hierarchy when they vote among its own delegates who can be the president, who cannot. So what happened is now in South Africa is you can even change 3 presidents within the term, because the party can decide. So you don't vote a person like Ramaphosa is not the president, he's just the face. The actual president is held by ANC. So that makes it very elitist. And once people have voted, they don't have any power to say it. And now, maybe because there's been a division within the voting population in South Africa now, we've got what is called the GNU, which is when 2 parties come together to form a government and stuff. But at the end of the day, the people cannot directly remove the president, even here in South Africa. But South Africa is more credible, processes are more transparent, and you can see how things are. But once people are voted and they go up there, it's very hard for us, the common people who are just walking on the ground, to decide to come and strike. You can strike maybe for water, you can strike for electricity, you can strike maybe for service delivery, but to strike that you want to remove the president in Africa, there isn't a direct, maybe like what you were talking about in Kenya, whereby people can actually come together and actually strike. Look at Zimbabwe now. Recently, we wanted to remove another dictator. After we failed, we removed Mugabe, we put even a worse one. In Zimbabwe, we wanted to do the same thing. So I think in Africa, much more needs to be done on the ground to give people power. Okay, I didn't read the book, but I used to have this idea that if I put you for 5 years and people are fed up with you after 3 years, you can go. In my country, especially in Zimbabwe, once you are there for 5 years, you can mess up the way you want. For the next 5 years, no one can even challenge you. The constitution can't, because now you've got the authority. We give you everything to control. So this idea of recalling, I like the Kenyan perspective. When you were talking about Surah, I came in later, but I was listening. It's quite interesting. But how does it really connect? Because there are always a hierarchy from those people who are on the ground as you go up. So in Africa, once you go up, even the voting system, like if you go to many countries in South Africa, in Africa, so Congo is quite a good example that how many people really voted the president of Congo now. And Congo is a very difficult country whereby even the voting stations and stuff are very difficult to reach. Means most people didn't even vote, only those who had access to it. So at the end of the day, I don't know whether there is another way in which in Africa we start to rethink and redefine what it is that we mean when we say grassroots or people are the ones who can decide, because people don't decide in Africa. We are decided for. In Zimbabwe, ZANU have been deciding for us as long as I can remember. And some of us will be living in South Africa for 20 years. We can't even go back home because at home it's like a family business. Yeah. So
Okay.
I just want to stop. They just frustrated. So let me stop here because I won't stop.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Stephen, of course, you are from Common Institute of Ideology.
Yes, I am. Yes.
You are the head of education.
Hello?
You are in charge of education.
Yeah, let me put I can't hear you properly.
Now, I'm saying you are part of the team that leads the education for Common Institute.
Yes, I did. I was at that portfolio at one point. Yes, I did. But now
okay.
we put another comrade. Yes.
Okay, so that's very important. Indeed, Stephen Phil is a friend. I know you know me. I'm Comrade Pigeon Dimongo. So we are part of various groups together, and I like what so people might want to know more about Common Institute of Ideology. Also, Stephen can still get in touch with you, and you can still tell more of what you do. But what you are reading, Stephen, is what Dr. George Aiti wrote on how traditional Africans dealt with the dictators. So dictatorship is not something that is new. So we are reading at it started by saying African traditional indigenous society had a battery of means on how they could deal with the dictators. The first way was a spiritual way, where they can even drag the corpse of a dead chief who was a bad chief. They drag the corpse around the streets to ensure that corpse don't get to ancestors. It's just a way of trying to rebuke and make the person who come next not to be a dictator. Because if you become a dictator, your corp also will be paraded in the streets. The next way is this private and public means, which is also coming in. So this aspect of today trying to do a recall is not something new to Africans. We did actually had power to recall chiefs. And in previous reading, we read that people could even march to the chief's house or in the palace and tell them to go. But of course, today the presidents have the military. Back then, not so many had their own military and the kingdoms and the chiefdoms. The people were serving the community. Wake up and go and dispose a chief. But here again, you see, they're saying, despite of that one means, there was another means again. They could remind them of the oath they took and give them opportunity to reform. If they don't, when they're dead, we'll drag your body around the streets. So these are various means on how traditionally we try to manage dictators and ensure that nobody becomes a dictator, as a chief or a king or whoever was. Yeah, so we are continuing reading. We have come up.
Can I come in on that, on the last comment?
Yes.
About ANC and the Zumas and whoever else.
No.
Yes, the system in South Africa is an interesting one because it's kind of similar to the UK system. So you elect a party, they decide who is the leader. So whilst the leader is in power, if they feel sense that the public is not happy with this person or they'll make them lose the next election, they change. They'll just do a no vote of confidence, change the leader in within a term. They can change leaders. So you find that the party is in power for so many years until the elections remove the party. That's when you get the Labour Party in and then the Conservative Party. But the party can be in there for so many years. All they do is keep changing the leaders. Whereas in South Africa, I don't know if they change the leaders in between a term, but ANC is in power since independence because of that same method. So it's in power and they change the leader. Whereas in ours, we vote the president, not the party.
Okay.
We vote the president. So when we vote the president, then his party becomes the ruling party. That's why, because we vote the president, not the party, that's perhaps why the vice president can start his own party as well. As I was speaking earlier, and I was thinking, maybe the vice presidents are using this little scheme to say, okay, that's how I'm going to become a president. They fall out, and then the vice president forms his own party, moves in, becomes the president. It's happened a couple of times. So you just wonder, with Bingu, he took over. Joyce Banda took over that way with his party. And then Chilima nearly did, but he didn't. He died in the process. They just off him off. And he never took over. But yeah, so these two systems are kind of, and it becomes difficult to remove them, like we're saying. Even if the mechanism is there, it becomes difficult because politicians are clever. They'll bring in certain provisions that takes care of that problem. If it comes about, we're going to move this way and move that way.
Okay, Sawindok, let's get to you. We want to go ahead in the next reading. Let's go to Sawindok, and General Nunaki is here if you want to share your thinking. Also, Lorraine is here. Any of you feel free to share your thinking with us. But Sawindok, there's something you wanted to say.
Mr. Chisomo, you are right. That is a scheme to ascend to the presidency.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously you, the vice president, and the president had agreements of what should be done. Why do they fall out of each other's favor? It's just to use that loophole.
And it's every time.
Yeah.
But you see, in Kenya, for example, the House of Deputy President, if we attempt to endorse anybody, because in Kenya, if you are impeached, first of all, you cannot serve in a government if you don't work. Of course, the current president fell out with the former president. Ruto fell out with Uhuru for some time, but he was in office, yes. He was not being assigned so many duties, and somebody was coming in almost close to act like the president. He could not run away from the party that elected them in office, because if he walks away from the party, then what happens is that his name will be removed from the registered political party as a member of that party, which means then he will lose his position as a deputy president. So he cannot walk away. That's the first thing. Second thing, the party can decide to remove him from the party list. If the party removes the deputy president from the party list, then the deputy president cannot serve that office because he gets to be president through the party ticket. As much as the country elects the individual, but they elect the individual through a party. So if that person walks away from the party removes you from the party list. If the party does that, then you don't own any office. You have to go back and ask for the popular mandate. Now, this former deputy president who was ousted, the people are saying that they don't want him. And even if he happened to support anybody, because he was impeached, he cannot stand for any position for the next 10 years. Any politician who is impeached in this country whose case is taken to the parliament and the parliaments impeach them, cannot run for any office for the next 10 years. So that deputy president cannot run for any office for the next 10 years. But what happens again is that the citizens can collect 1 million signatures. And if they collect 1 million signatures, they can start a motion to impeach the government or the president. If the president conducts or commits any serious offense, criminal offense, the citizens can take the president to court. If he's found guilty, he will be removed from office. So those are other means that are available, but I know countries differ. But let's hear what General Munaki has to say on this. General Munaki.
Brother Bijin.
Yes.
You're always robbing me of my minutes.
What?
I haven't said anything. I haven't used not even 1 minute. I just commented on Sister Chisomo.
No, you always pause. No, your 3 minutes were over. The initial 3 minutes were over. So I was giving you an extra minute. When you give General Munaki their 3 minutes, then I come back to you for an additional minutes. So, General Munaki?
Yes, give thanks for me, blessed. I was actually interested to hear what the elder wanted to say before I come in, if you will allow me.
Now you have donated your 1 minute to Sawindok. Sawindok, you have 1 minute from General Munaki.
Thank you, General. I wanted to say to Brother Piri, it's not what should we do. I think we should emulate the example of Brother Pigeon, wanted to take over the leadership in Kenya, and all of us should see ourselves in that role, putting a timeline to ourselves also to take over leadership in our countries. Only then will we defeat the dictator. Thank you.
Thank you. You're bringing a very interesting aspect. I think I had this conversation, sorry, for a minute. I had this conversation in the morning in one of the Twitter spaces Kenya has been holding. Kenyans are holding so many Twitter spaces. And here are a group of people who are ready for change, complaining of what's going on. I told them one thing. If you can criticize the government, if you can go to the street and protest, if you can take the government in court, if you think you know what is right, why don't you present yourself and be the change? Why don't you be the next member of parliament? Why don't you be the next member of county assembly? Why don't you be the next governor, the next president? But if you can only criticize what is wrong and sit back and watch again and vote a wrong person, then you're not going to make it. So I agree with you that we can go for offices. Again, the next thing we need to discuss is, are the elections coconut election? We read something like a coconut thing, because their so-called elections and democracy are just perpetual. It's just a play where they manipulate. But we can be able also to manipulate it by being in charge to control the voting and everything else. And that's also possible. So yes, we have to challenge the system. If you think it's wrong and you know what should be done, go out and be the change. General Munaki, what do you think?
Yes, give thanks, my brother, for those wonderful thoughts. Yes, give thanks for me. I came a bit late, but I can hear and read where we are. I'll just have a short answer from my side that we need to understand that the monarchy system is actually the original system of the government structure of Africa. It's just that due to colonialism of Western and Eastern societies, it has been difficult for us Africans to maintain this governance, but it is the original governance of Africans. Our kings and the lineage of our kings, if you can look at it, that if maybe your bloodline is not of a royal family in your clan, it doesn't mean you are not royal or you are less important, but it means that you belong to the noble side of the clan, because you remember the structures. I think it was chapter 2 when you talk about this in this book, these structures, governmental structures. Yeah, in the side of the African monarchy system, if I can coin it like that. It was not as autocratic or tyrannical as the Westerners would explain it to be. It had logical systems in place to solve disputes within the communities and everything. So I think what we are having now is infiltration of colonialism into our African societies, therefore being able to buy, sell, if I can coin it, sellouts within the groups to destabilize our societal governments. So it doesn't help to say, no, democracy is the only way. Not necessarily that's the case, but our togetherness and common understanding and the roots, following our roots, that is the true key to establishing, to eradicate the issue of corruption and everything, because to think that we'll never have opposition is a big misunderstanding. There will always be oppositions, whether it's democracy or monarchy or autocratism, there'll always be oppositions. We just need to know, we just need to check which government outweighs the positives against the negatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thinking. Sister Lorraine, are you able to also to share your thinking regards that public or private?
Not today, please.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead.
I've just joined, so I'm following, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So let's
you.
go ahead to this other last part on prohibitions against the office of chieftaincy. So if you can remember, we have been reading means on how African institutions dealt with the institutional checkups against despotism. So the three institutional checkups is religious and supernatural sanctions. The second one is private or public admonitions. And the third one is prohibition against the office. From there, we'll go to institutional checks against autocratic chief, which will be probably in the next class, which is the royal family, the inner privy council, and the council of elders. So these other ones are just external means before we get to the internal means. So it means externally, people could still sanction spiritual means, people could still go against private or public means, and people could go even to prohibit them from office. Internally, now the people responsible, the council of elders and the rest also had to take the responsibility. So let's read about this prohibition against the office of the chieftains as the third means of deterring dictators. Then we will discuss that and probably end our meeting today from there. Then the next class will start the internal checks-ups. So who is ready to read for us this brief paragraph on prohibition against the office? Anybody who is willing to read that brief paragraph, then we can also share our thinking in regards to that. Okay, I'll read it then maybe you can share your thinking. So it says that prohibitions against the office of the chieftaincy or kingship. Now, various restrictions have been applied against the office of chieftaincy to ensure that whoever occupies the stool or throne acts properly. For example, the king is forbidden to speak directly to the people in public. Some of these injunctions are cleverly designed to check despotic tendencies and the misuse of power. Of particular interest is the prohibition against holding property or against property holding. To prevent a ruler from using his position to amass wealth for himself, the king may not, except in a few circumstances, own any personal property while in the office. Everything that the ruler acquires while in the office automatically becomes the stool's property or the property of the office, unless the elders consent to its becoming the personal property of the king. That rule applies to the wives of chiefs as well. To make the rule effective, the administration of tribal funds and the property is put in the hands of someone else other than the chief. So the chief is not in charge of the community fund or administrative fund, who is also barred from any close contact with the stool finances. This provision is akin to acquiring an American president to place private holdings of the stock in a blind trust. Let's share our thinking on that. Very interesting concepts are coming in regards to this as well. So let's start off. Who is ready to start sharing their thinking in regards to this also brief reading you have just come across as another means of keeping the dictators at bay? Who wants to start first? Just share what do you think or what's your reaction in whatever we've read briefly. This means of keeping dictators at bay. Anybody?
I think it's still the opposite of what's happening today.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, because if it's meant to stop them from amassing, what was it? Amassing wealth or whatever. It's the exact opposite. They amass as much as soon as they go into office. And people are becoming rich, and that's why people want to become politicians. No offense to you, brother Pigeon, but
No problem.
a lot of people going into politics and then all of a sudden they're millionaires and billionaires and whatever. So, and there's no way of us checking or doing anything about it. And also they keep telling us, oh, they have to declare their assets. That never happens. So, I don't know.
It's very interesting what you're bringing on the assets, Sister Chisomo. Anyway, to those who know, I'm going for the presidency of Kenya. Even my belief is very simple. If it's possible, we should totally do away or reduce, not even do away, reduce the money the politicians earn. Because being a politician is not a profession. You're not like a doctor or a teacher who spends money, their degree, undergraduate, and the rest to become a doctor. You just go around and campaign and you say now you can be earning more than anybody else. It's not totally right, but I know it's the system. So those are things we need to change. We need to lower that so that we also deter opportunists just for going for political positions. In fact, political positions should be paying very less so that it can only attract people who are serious to go do the work. But now it attracts everybody who wants to go make business, and that's why we have problems in the continent. If we could be able to reduce that, and I'll give you an example. A member of county assembly in my country, local area in my country, when we had a new constitution in Kenya, the 2010 constitution, we were supposed to earn 60,000 Kenya shillings per month. That is an equivalent to around $500. That's what a member of county assembly was supposed to earn. But since 2010 up to date, they have gone to the parliament and increased that salary from 60,000 to 350,000. That's almost 4 times. Members of the parliament recently wanted to increase their salary by 30%. In fact, the citizens decided to make serious noise. And these are members of the parliament even said if they don't want the salary increment. They didn't say they want it. Because now the parliamentarians are very afraid of the youth. If they say that they want the salary, they know the youth will come for them. So even the president decided to pronounce in some of that. The president said, no, I'm not supporting any salary increment. In fact, I'm not ready to add any salary to any person. So these are also often going on. And you are saying that aspect you're bringing on the declaration of wealth, which is very important as well. I see in Kenya, when you go for an interview, even the new ministers who come in, you ask, what is your net worth? I've never known what is a net worth. Is it the money that is in cash in your account or including all your properties? Because as much of what they declare to be their net worth is not true. Because these people have a lot of billions and millions. In fact, sometimes we were surprised when this current deputy president, when he was joining a parliament the first time, I think he said he was having how much? 200 million Kenya shillings. But within 2 years, he was now having 700 million Kenya shillings. And some of them were even having billions, 3 billion Kenya shillings or 4 billion Kenya shillings as their net worth. Then you ask yourself, so if you have a 4 billion Kenya shillings as a net worth, what are you going to look to? Why are you employed? Why are you looking for opportunity to be a minister? So these things are there. we wanted to introduce what we call declaration of self-interest. Of course, the Constitution of Kenya also says that a public officer should not do business with the government. And in fact, it's in the Constitution of Kenya, no one who is a public servant can directly procure any service to the government. So what these politicians do is very clever. They ensure that they don't register companies directly. So they register through their relatives, their uncles, their whatever, their aunties. So those are the people who then seek procurement from the government. Then they get the favor to provide or supply services. But nobody is allowed, even now, if you're a government, even though you amass a lot of wealth, you're not allowed to bid for a contract directly. If you're a citizen, you're not allowed even your company to go for anything. So most of them are stopped from that. And I think it's what traditional Africans are also saying. And these people think that they are now coming with Western ways to ensure that we have democracy and everything else. It is all traditional things that we were doing before. But let me know what other people also have to say. Sarida, what do you have to say?
We should be the engineers of change, because we understand some of these things and their repercussions. Sister Gisomo, you are right when you are saying what is happening is directly the opposite. A couple of months before President Hage became president of Namibia, he couldn't even pay his water bill. And 2 years down the line, he was the richest person in Namibia. So these things, we should be the change ourselves. President Fidel Castro died with nothing. President Kaunda died with, when he left office, I understand, $5,000 US. And Kwame Nkrumah apparently died with nothing. Those are people who were selfless, who wanted to serve the nation, and did not care with amassing.
Saundo.
Yes. Yes.
Kwame Nkrumah died without a house. He never even had a house. I'm told that the sister came back, the daughter came back after so many years, and they were wondering where is she going to stay. Kwame Nkrumah never had his personal house.
Yeah, and everything that he was given, he bequeathed it on the state. This I'm told. So those are people who were serious, who were selfless, who wanted to serve the nation, who were concerned about the prosperity of their nations. So we should be the catalyst of change and not rely on anybody, because nobody is going to be honest, nobody is going to declare their assets, and nobody is going to do this and that. They are waiting for public office to amass funds and to do all sorts of things.
But again, look, for example, President Ruto in Kenya, when he was a deputy president, he built a house worth 2 billion Kenya shillings. 2 billion Kenya shillings is something equivalent to almost $10 million. Now, when he served as a president for the first time, he has built himself a new house again, somewhere away from where he was. Now he has built a new house, which is also billions of money. And he has a very huge tract of land. And in fact, he's now building an airstrip in that land. When the president of Ghana, the new president of Ghana was coming to Kenya, he was housed in that his house. And so politicians have so many houses, so many lands. In fact, the Kenyatta family, the former president of Kenya, are believed to have a land equivalent to one province. One province is basically something like a 300 kilometer square. A land worth 300 kilometers square. And they continue looting. I've never seen a poor politician in my country here. Even there's a young man who was voted from a village. He was a very young man, voted from a village. When he got to power, he's doing some work in the village, but he decided to buy a new Lexus TX something, a new model. And there's a time that his vehicle got some accident. He never had even money to repair. He put some polythene on the screen. And he has been drinking some good alcohol. He's saying that now he has drunk, I don't know, which out and which alcohol. You wonder. One of the member of parliament in Kenya here was putting on a watch equivalent to 10 million Kenya shillings. A watch. These are our politicians. Do you have something else to say, Saundo?
No.
Okay, let's get to, Stephen, go ahead, then Bernard.
Yes, actually, there was a time when we were trying to reconfigure Kwame Nkrumah Ideological Institute because before Brother Prince took over, it was Dr. Ben. So we're looking at the documents. So one of the things that Dr. Ben has been trying to do is exactly what we are studying now that you're giving an introduction about our African traditional way of leadership and their method and mechanism of accountability, like what you have said. You see, there's the argument of Dr. Ben is trying to write a manuscript, but his manuscript is not only introducing the African way of doing things, he's trying to challenge the present one. Remember that even if our politicians are playing around with the present system, which is a Western system, it also have got its own strategies of accountability. It has them. Like here in South Africa, they are always being questioned. Actually, Ramaphosa is a billionaire. You should know that. They are always trying to question how you get the money and all this stuff. Yeah, the system that we have got all these mechanisms, but the way they are presented, they are very complicated. Like you see in the African traditional system, how I've read the actual system and the manuscript of Dr. Ben, because I was reading it through, was published. It also looks at different levels of accountability that a leader will never run away from that. But like what we are presenting now, it's a good way of doing that. But the question that I ask is, how do you integrate such a system into the present one? Because here we've got even the public protector, where they spend millions of rands trying to sort cases. See, the problem about the present system, first of all, it's just expensive. And it's also built up on a capitalist way, but everything is money. There's nothing that you can just change without going through a lawyer and all this stuff. And also the system of law that we have, this is the Dutch Roman system. It's also structured in a way that prioritizes the issue of money and exchange. That's why the rich can get away with whatever. So the question that I ask is, if you want to be accountable, the problem will be we'll be trying now to put some of the elements of the African system of ruling into the existing system. But the actual system that exists now, it's already a bad system. The whole of it is a bad system. Part of my studies that I do as part of my research, I look at the post-colonial state. The structure of the post-colonial state itself, it's not good enough. We need to get rid of what is there. Okay, which people say it's impossible, some may say it's too revolutionary or what. But the system, what we are doing is we are trying to fit into an existing dysfunctional system. And remember that all the economies of the structures, the political structures of post-colonial states in Africa, they're not designed to prosper. They're designed to serve a few and oppress the majority, because they were colonial state. So when these guys left them, the structure didn't change. That's why you find that we just adopted everything. So what I'm trying to say is now, what are the strategies that we can, that's what the question that we have with Kwame Nkrumah Ideological Institute, which you cannot even answer, is because I was part of, like what you said, I was part of the educational system of it. I tried, because of funds and stuff, it couldn't work out. I tried to use even my resources from my university that I'm working, but it couldn't work out. But the idea was to say, how do we challenge the existing systems so that we can make sure that our leaders become really accountable? Because most of our leaders are actually very rich. I know in Zimbabwe, Mugabe, when he was out of power, they were building a house that was billions and billions in their children, which they couldn't finish when he was out of power. Our leaders would talk about accountability. They've been, even this system that was created also in Africa, where countries becomes accountable and stuff. But our leaders still prevail even under the prevailing systems. The question is, we had very good African systems that were functional, that to directly hold accountable our leaders. But now with the present complicated system, the leader will always be in the courts until he dies, next 20 years, because he can defend himself and protect his property. So what are we doing about it? That is my own concern. And I like that you are introducing this African way of, I've read quite a lot of it, actually. Most of my books that I have are on that. But I worry about now the post-colonial structure that we have now. How do we deal with it?
It's very interesting, Brother Stephen. It's a complex question. It's not having a straightforward action, but a part of it is two-way. One is, as what Sir Windhoek was saying, can we have conscious Pan-Africans who are ready to commit to our tradition? Because basically, a simple thing like not owning property when in office, even Nkrumah did it. Even other examples have been given, people who did it, you see? But there were people who are conscious. Issues to do with how maybe you run your power to help the people is leadership. Look now what Shaura is doing. He might be acquiring something, but he's trying to transform the people. He doesn't need anything else. He needs his own mental thinking. And that's why he's changing even the education. The clothes the judges are putting on. He's trying to transform them because he's thinking in a conscious way. So one way is one, we have to look for the leadership. At the end of the day, it's the leadership that makes policies. Some of us as activists or Pan-Africans, NGOs, we can only come with a good paper, a proposal, a good write-up. But do you have the power to make them work? No, you have to take them to somebody else, either the minister or either the what and what. Even if you come up with a new curriculum of education today, who will implement it if those neo-colonial states don't approve it? You cannot run because your school has to be approved by them. Your curriculum has to be checked by them. Everything else is in their hand. So basically, it's a matter of liberating or taking over those territories by liberating, having progressive leaders coming in and they start transforming them. But that journey again is something else. It's not a straightforward journey. But it's a good question you're raising, and some of us can ponder around this. We are working on, I've tried to bring some 9 books together to develop a Pan-African leadership curriculum program, which can go for 6 to 8 months, basically looking at how we can have a short training or a short course where potential young leaders or potential Pan-Africans can go through such education in a program like a certificate program. And I have factored in almost 9 books. This book by Dr. Iti is called Defeating Dictators, but there's his book that is written purely on indigenous African society. So the whole structure is in his book. That book is included in the module. We have another book on decolonizing the mind by Ngugi Thiong'o. Nkrumah's 4 books are included in that training module, which include Africa Must Unite, Consciousism, Neocolonialism, and Class Struggle. We also have the books of Dr. Wilson Kress, who talks about ISIS Papers, Keys to Color, on decoding the Western or white supremacy system in that book. We also have the book of Amos Wilson on Black Power, which is also part of that. And we have a book also of Dr. Chancellor Williams on the destruction of Black civilization. All the 9 books have brought them together to form a leadership curriculum. It's still in the draft stages, but we'll discuss it. Once it is ready, we can see how we can start training young leaders or the potential people who want to go to the office, who can then be conscious in a Pan-African way, so that if they get to office, at least they have a conscious leader, than if they just get to office and they're not conscious. Those are part of what we're doing. Sister Chisom, I see your hand is up. My time is almost running, but I'll come back to you. Let me allow Bernard, first of all, to go ahead. Bernard, then I'll go to Sister Chisomo.
Yeah, I think people who have spoken, but the challenge I see, and it's actually what is happening. I mean, our brother mentioned the case of money, which has become so central to everything. But then we have these Western leaders and politicians who are also pushing this becoming rich agenda, you see. So it undermines our effort here locally. You see, it undermines our effort here locally unless we find some other means as we're trying to apply our own African systems and the knowledge as to how to go, solve some of these problems, because it's very complicated. It's very complicated, as our brother mentioned. And already the water is muddied. But now, what should we do? We need even particular ideologies that we have to craft to be able to work this thing through. Yesterday, I was watching something on the Facebook. One guy, I don't know his name, but he said that none of these African countries have actually any concept back in the States. You see, it's a problem. You see, because we are running something that actually is like we are just running the States, but there is not a particular direction or a particular goal that we want to achieve. Yeah, that's why many of our states, they don't have any long-term plan. You see, only short-term. And each political party also comes with their own agenda, which sometimes may not even be relevant for the state. So that is my role, that for us to actually get the change, we need to take all these things into consideration. And we need to have think tanks who will sit and brainstorm and come with a direction. That is my role. Sorry, I had a flu, so the way I'm speaking is a bit heavy.
No, it's okay, comrade. The ancestors are with you. Sister Chisano?
Yeah, mine is a question. In fact, the question, what do we do, is coming up in all most of the WhatsApp groups. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Because the politicians are going one direction. We're going one direction. Anyway, my question was, so this book talks more about chiefs. Now, when we are in these other discussions, and I think it was the last of the one before session that we had, and I could hear people saying, "Oh, our chiefs, they drive luxury cars, they live in all these mansions and whatnot." And it's the opposite in Malawi. Whilst the politicians are amassing and becoming rich within a term of 4 years, the chiefs don't seem to be that rich. They look very poor. I don't know how much they get. I think they get very, very little. They live just like normal villagers in a mud hut and grass roof. And it's only recently this government, I think, that started talking about building them houses. I don't know if they started building, and now I think they are on their way out. But I just wondered, in your countries, what do chiefs get? Do they get a house? Do they get a salary? And does your country build social housing for the ordinary people, vulnerable groups of people? I don't see this in my country, that people getting houses. When they talk about building houses, they started talking about building houses. They're talking about building houses for police, for themselves, for ministers. In fact, they were going to build houses for ministers, imagine. And then now they were talking, so they've built a few for policemen, beautiful houses. So I think they were going to do the same for chiefs, but it's never the general public social housing. The social housing that happened long time ago when we had the first president. So we have certain locations that have public housing. So I just wonder, I know Rwanda did, to the extent that some of the houses were never even occupied because there were too many. So I don't know how it works in your countries as far as your chiefs are concerned and the general public.
In Kenya, the government is building affordable housing, which is sold in millions. I don't know if it's affordable to who, but that's what they are building, affordable. They call it affordable housing, using our money to build affordable housing. Affordable is affordable to the rich because it's 7 million, 10 million, and you wonder how affordable is that affordable. The salary they are giving to chiefs. They have started paying them some little salaries. But when you ask this book talk of chiefs and kings, because it's about kingship or chieftaincy, those are the top positions in the community back then. So the chief could be equivalent today to more of either prime minister or a deputy president, and the kings could be equivalent to presidents. That's why the book refers to our tradition. In our African tradition, we never had the presidents, the ministers, and the cabinet. We had the chiefs, the kings, the council of elders. So we are looking at, the book is trying to focus much on who we were or what we were. So we can equate that to the present situation. Look at a chief like a president or a deputy president, look at a king as the same value. And what they were bad from doing should be actually replicated to the positions you have today. Are they also bad from the same thing? We are having minutes to go. I know Sawindo can this up, but permit me to take first of all any other comments in the floor before we go to you, Sawindo. Joranaki.
Yes,
General
my
Naki,
lord.
you are
Yes,
thinking
sir.
in regards to this paragraph on how the chiefs were prohibited from amassing wealth and the rest of the things?
Yeah, my short thinking would be that, yeah, it was always part of the plan because, like I said, I think it was a Saturday meeting that the idea of individualism is non-existent, but it was designed to keep the mindset of the African confined and under slavery, because in reality, there's no such thing as individualism. Everything involves people. So this is a perfect example of that, that even if you're a king or a chief, doesn't mean now you are more special than any other black, but that you are part of a mission which is to govern the blacks. This is the kind of order, structure, strictness that I'm always talking about of ancient Africans, how we were well disciplined. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, General Naki. Sawindok, back to you. Then I'll get to anybody else and share their thinking. Please raise your hand because we are almost coming to the end of our session today. Sawindok?
Yeah, the question by Sister Chisomo, chiefs in our country. You know, a royal house or a traditional authority applies to government to be recognized, and government is having them, is pulling the strings. If you do this, we will. If you don't recognize, we will revoke your recognition. So you will do ABC only. And they are getting paid 3,000 Namibian dollars, which is equivalent to 200 US dollars, just to keep them afloat. They are in poverty. It's very difficult. That's how you can control them. Otherwise, they will instigate their people to stand up against government. So government is keeping them nicely in check. That's all I wanted to add.
Okay, thank you. We are coming to an end of our session today. We are looking forward to continue with the next part when we look at this. First part was the power people had. The second part will be internally within the royal families. So like the political parties you're talking about, were they the royal families, the inner privy council, and the council of elders? What were they doing to deter the dictators and the last defense? So all these were means available to ensure that our traditional setup did not entertain in any form possible despotism, dictatorship, or anything of that sort. But today we express this maybe by learning this, because this book, the title of this book is Defeating Dictators. So maybe by learning these traditional ways, we might be able to find a way on how we can deal with our contemporary dictators today. But once again, I would like to say that to those who have shared their thinking, thank you very much. To anybody want to share their thinking before I come to an end? We are almost wrapping up.
Yeah, I wanted also to give an example of what Chisomo I've asked about social housing. As South Africa is doing a great job on that, of building houses for the poor. What they do is now they build even this high-rise building called flats, where one is on top of the other. Then they put them in a price. Then there's a tag between, if you are paid maybe this amount, those who are low paid people will be allowed to rent at a cheaper price. So the government is building that. And they also the one that we called RDP houses also, which were also just built during Mandela's time, and they were given to people to benefit from them. So there's been a lot that have been happening, but through that, there's been a lot of corruption. People have taken advantage of those tenders and start to make millions out of it because money is being stolen. But South Africa have tried at least to do that when it comes to provision of houses. But the problem about chieftainship, even here in South Africa, I studied for my doctorate in KwaZulu-Natal before I moved to Johannesburg. The royal family is given, if you see, they've got even a budget from the government, a lot of money that is given to them, and they live luxurious life, but it's a kingship for the Zulu. They are given money, the government gives money. And in Zimbabwe, what they do now is, because ZANU-PF gets its votes from rural places where they are chiefs. So what they do is now they end up now giving money to chiefs and give them cars and stuff, so that chiefs might actually tell their own people to vote for the party. So chiefs are being used. Even here in South Africa, there's a certain amount they actually paid per month, I think, by the government. So, but the problem will be now, the traditional chieftainship end up being controlled by this capital, by the politician, like what others have said, in a way. Just the same way is actually the way they are treated is the same way they were treated during the colonial era, especially when you read one of Umamdan's book called Citizen and Subject. It tries to explain how the chieftainship that we have now is not the real one that we used to have in our traditional days, which controlled. The one that we have is more like the puppet. It falls after the government. The government actually controls it. So it doesn't have power anymore. It looks up to the government, something like that. I don't want to keep on going towards the end. Thank you.
Thank you, comrades. And that marks the end of our session today. I've just shared a brief. An autocrat who appears to be a despot of what you're dealing with now is covered in our Kenyan magazine, The Standard. I think there's a beauty of having a free media. I don't know in other countries if there are bold media houses that criticize the government, because in this book we learn that most asset for a revolution or defeating a dictator, one of the components is a strong media. Now this media house called The Standard has been giving very interesting headlines, and they call themselves the Kenya's bold newspaper. Now they're referring to President Ruto as an autocrat, basically a dictator. And they're saying President Ruto's leadership style is drawing fire. Critics accuse of muzzling dissent, intimidating opponents, centralizing power. Remember, we read in the previous chapters that centralizing power is one of an element of dictatorship. Tear-gassing students and availing much money in the churches, bribing the churches. All these are actually the modern way of dictatorship. So probably Kenya is witnessing another dictatorship here. And we have to learn on how we'll be able to defeat this dictator. So that's it for today, comrades. And we look forward to see how we can go ahead and learn something. We are not only reading for the purpose of reading, but we are actually equipping ourselves with essential knowledge and tool on how we can defeat a dictator. And as it said in the previous readings, we said, it's not about just Ruto must go, but how do we ensure that we have a system and people who can do what is needed to the Pan-African's knowledge. That's what we are really interested on. I have shared this book on the chat. I see, Stephen, you are asking for the book as well. I did share it before, but permit me to share it again so that you can download it before we leave our meeting in 1 minute time. But thank you very much for your attendance. In case anybody has anything, maybe we'll discuss it next week. From Thursday, we'll go ahead with our normal reading of Consciousism study book, where we read the Nkrumah's book as we do it usually. And on the next Sunday, we'll go ahead from where we've left it here. So we'll continue the next part of it. Always feel free to come and join us. And if you have any issue, if you want to be part of my broadcast list where I send a reminder, permit me to share my contact before you leave so that you can always contact me, and I add you in what we call our broadcast list, where you will always get update of any of our meeting, any of our upload, even when this video will be uploaded and will be available on our YouTube for any of your review. You can always get in touch with me through the number I'm sharing in the chat, so that you can call me. I can add in the broadcast list, or you can text me via WhatsApp. Anytime there's any video uploaded, any of our previous class recording, anything else, we have 245 videos of our classes available on our YouTube channel. So feel free to get in touch with me, guys. I am the coordinator. I'm one of the coordinators of Consciousism Study Group. We run this Sunday class. We run Tuesday class. I teach Swahili through Consciousism Study Group, a free Swahili class. On Thursday, we discuss and read Nkrumah's book, which is Consciousism Study Group, study book for the philosophy of decolonizing Africa. On Fridays, we do host another organization called New Pan-African Agenda. Like this coming Friday, they're having an Ubuntu conference, which will be hosted by us here. And I will share the link for the same. Next Saturday, we are discussing about African identities. We have a Saturday session on Africa unification. Every Saturday for the last 2 years, we discuss various topics on African unification. You'll always get the notification as well. This Saturday, we're discussing African identities. On Sunday, we will continue with where we stop the reading. We are working on a Pan-African leadership program. I am the librarian. If you want to join our library, every day I'll send 50 books from Africa to our library. And we have other projects as well that you're doing. So feel most welcome, and we are just contributing our part to the struggle. Thank you very much for
So
today.
did you share the WhatsApp group so they can go to the library?
Yes, I did share oh, can I share it here before you leave, actually?
The WhatsApp group so they can then access the library.
Yeah, I want to share the link of the library here before you leave.
Okay.
So that anybody who wants to join the library directly from here, you can join our library and you request your books. We have 5,000 books already there, and we can get as many books as possible. If in case you have any book that you have a request on or you want to read, get in touch with us through the library. Just text the name of the book. I'll get you that book within the same day. Most of our books are Pan-African books, so at least ask books that are written by Africans or that are about Africans and something like that. We don't entertain other writings. Of course, we look more philosophy books as well, but we are interested in more of the books written by Africans, because people say that we don't write as Africans, but we want to demystify that. We've written many books. We've talked about many things, but either they don't get to the limelight of fellow Pan-Africans. So we have all 5,000 books by Africans, from Kemet, from African spirituality, from Dogon people, all the way to other parts of the African history and write-ups. The books of Kwame Nkrumah, all of them are in our library, all of them. The books from Mandela, Steve Biko, Black Panther movement, Walter Rodney, all the books of Anti-Diop, books of Ngugi wa Thiong'o, all the books are in our library. And those are soft copy books that are free, because our members do donate something for us to get the books within the platform that they're being shared. So I'm sharing.
Have you got Chilembwe books?
What?
John Chilembwe.
Yeah, put the request. I think they're in our library, and you can post the request. I'll always look for them. If they're not in the library, I'll download them and share them with you in our library.
Thank you.
Yeah, just do a request after this class to my WhatsApp or in the library directly, and you'll be able to have the books. I've shared the link to our library. Please get to the library before you leave, so that you can be part of the library and we can pick up. In that library, you are only allowed to request a book or share a book, nothing else. And we have a Telegram channel that you'll find in the library. So Telegram, we have uploaded 3,000 books on the Telegram so far. So other books will also go to the Telegram for members who are interested to join. So that is it for now. I see Lorraine has joined. If there's anybody who wants to join the library, use that link before I end the meeting. Yeah, otherwise, let's meet next week. We've done our part today. Let's continue doing what we're doing.
We missed Sister Tapua. Not sure what happened.